the champagne, pop. It's my house, come on, turn it up. Hear a knock on the door and the night begins. Cause we've done this before, so you come on in. Make yourself at my home, tell me where you been. Pour yourself something cold, baby, cheers to this. Sometimes you gotta stay in, and you know where I live. Yeah, you know what we is. Sometimes you gotta stay in. Welcome to my house, baby, take control now. We can't even slow down. We don't have to go a while. Welcome to my house, play the music too loud. Show me what you do now. We don't have to go a while. Welcome to my house. Welcome to my house.
It was another high-intensity year in sports in 2016, with plenty of high-flying moments and unforgettable memories. And I spent Thursday recapping it all with Rex Castillo, a sports anchor for WSAV TV in Savannah, Georgia, as we looked at the year that was and what lies ahead.
Thanks for inviting me, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys. I really like what you guys are doing.
So let's dive right into it, Rex. Tell me, what were your top 5 moments in this year when it comes to the world of sports?
A lot of stuff happened. I'm going to have to start off in baseball. The Miami Marlins, back in September, D. Gordon hits a leadoff home run after the tragic death of Jose Fernandez. Just talk about, all the emotion with all the players wearing Fernandez's number 16, the community of baseball just really coming together to mourn the loss of such a young life. But to have that moment and really see D's emotions come out like that was really incredible to see. Going to number 4, Simone Biles. I mean, I have to admit, I never paid attention to gymnastics, especially when the Olympics came on. Or even if it did come on, but Simone Biles was absolute must-see TV. Her in the Final 5, winning. It was highlighted by her winning the all-around. Golden State at number 3, winning number 73. Personally, I thought that was a record I would never see broken in my lifetime, but to see them actually do it was really, really cool. But LeBron James winning the championship for Cleveland after being down 3-1 was absolutely insane. It was script written for, Golden State to win it all again. They were supposed to. They had the best regular season, but LeBron comes back and brings Cleveland a championship after 50-plus years. And my number 1 moment, and I'm kind of a baseball homer, but the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. It was something, even though they had the best team, they had the best record, they had the curse. Something was supposed to happen, and it didn't. So I was so happy for Chicago to win their World Series and break that curse.
Hey, Rex, I'm a Lions fan, so maybe that luck will rub off on the Lions this year in the playoffs. I kind of doubted, but here's to hoping, right?
Absolutely. And shout out to your Lions. We thought everyone writ them off after Megatron retired, but Matt Stafford is balling.
Yeah, but they gave away the division title, so
It's Aaron Rodgers. What can you do?
Oh, well, that's true. It's kind of their kryptonite every year. So moving on, who were your top 3 athletes who changed the landscape of sports this year?
It has to kick off again with Miss Simone Biles. I really do not understand how a human being moves like her. It is absolutely insane to see how she did things and what she did in the Olympics. She made people like me, who I consider, to be a pretty good sports fan, but casual when it comes to any other sports. I had to watch the Olympics specifically for her, and to see all of her hard work pay off and to do it with such class, with such charisma, and bring attention to a sport that needs it and deserves it was incredible. LeBron, I mean, the guy is a walking golden ticket to the finals, no matter what team he goes to. And for him to go back to Cleveland to give that city what he promised and what I think he owed them, to be honest, after leaving them with the decision, that was fantastic. But also what he did off the court, as far as leading the ESPYs with Carmelo, CP3, and D Wade, about bringing the attention that here in America that we're dealing with a lot of social issues outside of there. But a guy who I think still transforms stuff is Steph Curry. He's not LeBron James. He's not 6'8". He's not 200 plus pounds, and he doesn't jump out of the building. He just changes the way the NBA and honestly everywhere else is playing basketball now. We're actually seeing it in some of the teams that I'm covering, that no one is really going after a huge center. I cover Georgia Southern, and they're kind of playing a Warrior-style basketball because they don't have the recruiting power of a Kentucky or a Duke. So they're playing a little smaller ball, and it's really, really fun to see. And it's kind of cool to see a smaller guy, take down the giants of the NBA.
And when we look at athletes that retired this past year, which ones do you think left the largest legacy on their career and in sports?
This was a really close one. This was a really, really close one, just because Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl. But for me, I have to admit a little bias because I like basketball a lot, but it's Kobe Bryant. He had a horrible last season, but the 60-point game against the Utah Jazz was absolutely mind-numbing to see, just to see him do all of that. And that kind of puts back into perspective what he did as a player. And it was incredible to watch. I think he was also that guy after Michael retired. We were shuffling around to find who was that next guy. Kobe Bryant kind of grabbed that opportunity by the throat and ran with it. We saw what he did with the 5 championships. He didn't do it as, didn't match up to Michael, but I think he leaves the biggest legacy. And he was my favorite basketball player to watch. So I'm still adjusting to life post Kobe, even though he's been out of the game for a while now.
And Luke's got them playing pretty good basketball, so the rebuild has officially begun out there in LA.
Absolutely. Thank God for Luke Walton. Thank God for Luke Walton. I'm really, really happy about it. The young Lakers are looking really good.
Mitch Kupchak finally seems to have a clue on what he's doing out there, so that's good.
I mean, Mitch, thank you for waking up, for hiring him, because myself and a lot of other Laker fans were getting really frustrated with what was going on out there. So at least it's heading towards the right direction.
Hey, Rex, what was your biggest sports surprise, disappointment, and failure for 2016?
My biggest surprise has to be Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors. I mean, that just absolutely made no sense. That still blows my mind. When I watch the Golden State Warriors, you kind of find who the players you want to watch. All right, there's number 30. There goes number 11. Why is 35 on the court? It still blows my mind that he's still there. Of course, other people and other media outlets have been very critical of KD when he comes to signing with the team that eliminated him, because the Thunder were right there. Just give them, I really think the Thunder were right there, and they could have taken him down this year if he had stayed, maybe add 1 or 2 more pieces, but that's my biggest surprise. As far as my disappointment, it was the cause. I guess it was the cause for KD signing there. The Warriors losing the championship with a 3-1 lead. You win 73 games in the season. You have one more expectation to really cap it off, and you lose it to. But again, you lose it to the guy who's a freak of nature. But for me, I was like, "Dang, that really happened." Wow. My biggest failure. Now, this was kind of we're finally traveling outside of the world of basketball. Biggest failure for me has to be the entire run of the 49ers under Chip Kelly. The San Francisco 49ers, one of the best organizations we have in the NFL. I know you're a Lions fan, so give me a second. But it's one of those things where that is an organization that we as even casual fans have expected them to be the standard of excellence when it comes to certain things. Chip Kelly coming in with this innovative offense. Wow.
Well,
2-14.
I'm not so sure it's innovative anymore.
No. Go back to college. It worked in Oregon. No, not in the NFL. But I can't believe. Oh, go ahead.
I don't think Chip Kelly will be a head coach in the NFL again. I don't think he'll get a third crack at that apple.
No, they were completely exposed, and it's just to see them spiral down so badly after Harbaugh left, which again, he was fired for no reason. And look what he's doing at Michigan.
Hail to the victors.
Exactly. It's my goodness. How bad of an owner do you have to be to run that organization that had Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Steve Young, all those guys play for your team and literally run it into the ground? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, if you listen to Jed York's press conference, he's the best owner in football.
Culture. Stop. Go home.
I mean,
give the culture to somebody else.
They don't fire owners, right? That's what he said.
He's the biggest case why you should fire owners. That is the biggest case.
All right, now that we got that out of our system, let's move on. Talk to me about how this year's Olympics affected the landscape in sports this year.
I'm really glad the Olympics turned out the way they did when we got stories like Simone Biles and we saw Michael Phelps be able to bounce back from all of his personal demons, because we were going into the Rio Olympics with so many bad reports, just how badly the city was prepared for it. The hotels were horrible. The accommodations were really bad. I still think that those issues need to still be explored, but the Olympics went off and it was done very well. As far as the landscape of sports, I love having the Olympics. It's personally one of my favorite events to watch. And it's a personal bucket list item of mine to report on them and actually be on the ground one day to report on the Olympics. Again, when you have an extreme talent like a Simone and the Final Five in general, I want to give all those girls the credit, like Allie Rassman, the standard of excellence that has been Gabby Douglas, Lori, and Madison. Those girls, I mean, those women have changed what the attention of sports needs to be, and to be great examples for a lot of young people growing up. I think, again, the Olympics, it's so special that it happens every 4 years, even in a world where we have Twitter and Instagram and everything needs to be so instant. I think the magic of the Olympics is still there.
And just staying on the Olympics for a second, do you think Michael Phelps is the best non-major sport athlete that we'll see in American history?
Wow, that's arguably, I put him right up there. In American sports history, I put him right up there just because you have to remind yourself that he was back in Sydney when it all started, and he's been that dominant for that long. He was made to be that great, and I really think he is. Just the records he shattered with his medal counts. I think there was a time, and I love that NBC did this, if he was his own country, he would be like in the top 10 as far as medal counts go when it came to the Olympics for his career. It's insane.
And he has more medals than most countries individually. So
just come on, man. That's all you have to say.
So when we look at the whole year in sports, which sports stories do you believe got the least attention, that were underreported on, and that you thought deserved more coverage?
Again, kind of bouncing back to my biggest failure is, I think it was hard for me to decide on just one, so I kind of have two for you.
Yep.
Going back to the 49ers, just the report, I know it's hard to give national attention to a loser, but when a team loses that badly with the absolute craziness that Jed York is running, I think finally now we're seeing, as the season's winding down, just people asking him, Jed, what are you doing? And how is it getting to this point? You know, I think that it has a national brand with the 49ers, that it's a story that this is almost an article, how not to run an organization, how not to do things. And the other thing, on a more serious, hard news note, what happened with Baylor football, just to kind of catch people up with that. So many sexual assault cases were covered up by, a lot of Baylor football players were accused of. A lot of witnesses were put, and I guess that's something where, as journalists, we need, as investigative journalists, we need to take another step forward too, because stuff like this, it's very dangerous how powerful a really good football program can be in a smaller town like Waco. Stuff like that, I think we just need to be able to police our local programs more, just for safety of people as well.
I've got two follow-ups for you. First, on the 49ers. We talked a little bit earlier about them letting Jim Harbaugh go, and now we see what he's doing at Michigan. I think Colin Kaepernick is also a tragedy in this whole thing. He started his career with such promise, and now he's sort of wasting in the wind. I think Chip Kelly got hired primarily because they were trying to save Colin Kaepernick, and it just didn't work out. So I'm wondering if you could give me just a little bit more on how you thought Colin Kaepernick went from sort of the apex of his career to where he is now.
Jed York talked about culture, right? We heard it over and over and over again. Jim Harbaugh has that ability to create a culture that highlights the absolute strengths of every player. And I think you see case point there when it comes to Colin Kaepernick, because under Coach Harbaugh, that team was a Super Bowl contender with Colin Kaepernick at the helm and Jim Harbaugh there. This was a guy who created a culture where Colin was doing his job well. Aldon Smith wasn't getting in trouble every other day. And he had players that just played and ran through a brick wall for him. And I totally agree with you, is that Cap was this young, raw talent that we saw so much promise in. And for a team that's honestly been looking for that signature quarterback for so long after Steve Young retired, Jeff Garcia did his thing, but he was never on that level. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think Cap was exposed a lot because for two reasons. Jim Harbaugh would have been able to work with him for a lot, but we also have to remember how good NFL defensive coaches are. They will figure stuff out so quickly. I remember when the Wildcat was like the thing to do and the read option was the thing to do. But now you don't see it that much anymore because coaches have coached to defend it. I agree with your point, though, is that Cap's career has really gone by the wayside by a lack of that kind of culture. And it's a real shame to see.
What do you think is the future of the 49ers? Who do you think is actually going to take that job on? Because really, they don't have a quarterback, and the owner of the team is sort of a meddling figure. So it'll be interesting to see who takes that job on, no?
Yeah, it really will be. Unfortunately, what they need is a really strong-handed coach who will say, this is my team. Jed, let me do my thing. What we're going to get for the 49ers, I can't really think of a name right now, but you're going to get, I think, another forgettable yes man to Jed York. And it's just so disheartening to see that, because you have the opportunity to build a brand and you have the opportunity to take hold of a brand and reclaim its glory. But who wants to work for York right now? Like, seriously, in that kind of situation. And honestly, I think we'll see Kaepernick either hit free agency or just be cut eventually and maybe be a backup quarterback. Gosh, I really couldn't. Whoever does take the 49ers job, just good luck. That's all I can say.
Godspeed.
Godspeed.
Just one final follow-up on Baylor before we end with the final two questions. It's really a sad story because Art Briles had really resurrected that program and got people excited again about college football out there in that town. So do you think that Briles sort of the raw end of the stick, even though he is sort of the architect of that program and there's no excuse for what happened, but looking at that story, you have to look at the way the administration handled it too. No, I think a lot of people are at fault for the way that situation turned out.
I can see where that perception comes from. I really, really do. And you're right. I lived in that part of Texas for a while. I'm from Texas, and I lived in that part of Texas for a while. Yeah, but you're right. They were resurrected. Baylor was honestly the doormat of the Big 12. But when they became a legitimate contender, it was so nice to see them really re-energize the community. Does he get the raw end of the stick? I would say I would honestly say yes and no, because yes, because he did so good for the community, but no, because you can't put the safety of women and other people in your community ahead of wins. I have a little sister, and that's immediately where I came out. I have a little sister who's in college right now, and if she had been victimized by one of those players, I could honestly see the unmeasurable amount of fury I would have to call for justice, no matter if you play football, basketball, or baseball. And it's really comes to a point where I think you're right that the accountability for the administration, and I think Baylor did the best they could in the situation they had. Baylor did what they could to take care of it. Art Briles, unfortunately, he did so many good things for that community. It had to be outweighed by the safety and what happened to their players. As a head coach, you got to monitor and police your program like that. It wasn't right. I know that he wasn't directly involved with like making victims be quiet or promoting like, okay, just shove that off to the side and let my player play on Saturday. And you're right. There was a whole chain of command that failed the students. And I think Art will coach again. I don't think he'll get a high-profile job again anytime soon. He won't get a Houston job. He won't get a Texas job, like a University of Texas job. I think he may get he'll coach again, but I think a lot of programs want to stay away from that right now.
Speaking of someone that has to rebuild their image, I'm just curious about your perspective on what's happening with the University of Alabama and them having to switch coordinators, sort of because Lane didn't think he could handle both jobs. And how do you think that marriage has ended, and the lack of credibility that Lane Kiffin now has because of the way he left Alabama?
Wow. Talk about timing's everything, right? You're going to fire your OC the week of?
The championship game.
Like, Nick, we got another game, Coach. Coach, we got another game. As far as that marriage went, I think if we'll use that. If that marriage, that metaphor is that marriage, it looks like they broke up like the week of Christmas when they have to play in the biggest day for the family. But I think Lane and Coach Saban, from the outside looking in, the story that they're putting out is that Coach Kiffin wanted to just put all his focus on FAU. And, that's a great opportunity for him. But we've also seen that Lane doesn't stray away from conflict at all.
Yeah, but do you think it's a step back for him to take that job as opposed to still being the offensive coordinator at Alabama, because he took a significant pay cut to take that job?
Yeah, he did, but I think he's also using FAU to maybe propel him back to the head coaching job at a big program. Because honestly, that's what I think. If he rebuilds FAU for the next 2 years, then maybe a Houston or maybe another SEC school that's struggling will hire him. I think that's what his hope is. I think this was just handled so badly. I really don't care how much lipstick you put on this pig. It is just so bad to fire your offensive coordinator the week of your biggest game.
Mutual pardon.
Yes, exactly. It's just like, what are you guys doing? You couldn't wait 7 more days? Like, seriously? But again, it was that bad. We don't know what was going on behind closed doors. I understand Alabama's Alabama. It's not always plug and play with, hey, put in this new guy. We'll be fine.
Or plug and coach.
Plug and coach, exactly. And it's one of those – you have Bo Scarborough, who looked completely unstoppable against Washington. But Clemson's a team that's very, very hungry. And shutting out Urban Meyer, that never happens in football.
First time it's happened, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm working here in Savannah, we have a lot of Clemson fans in this area as well, and everyone is so excited for this. The energy is there.
Do you think Clemson will beat them?
See, this is the thing. I think on paper, Bama is the favorite, and it's Bama, but their best defense has been in years past. It was kind of exposed against Washington. And sure, they made their adjustments, and yes, I understand it was just 1 touchdown, and the Huskies didn't cross the 50-yard line much after that. But Clemson isn't Washington. Clemson's a legit contender. Deshaun played like he deserved the Heisman against Ohio State. The man was on fire. And that defense just ate everything up. So I think, honestly, Clemson will win a close one against Alabama.
Well, in fairness, Ohio State's offense didn't exactly light the world on fire all year. I mean,
That's true.
Michigan gave them 3 turnovers. Michigan should have won that game, but
Right?
anyway, that's another story for another day.
I have a couple of Ohio State fans in my office, and believe me, that controversy is like, that Michigan should have won that game, right? Shut up, Rex. All right, there's no reasoning with insanity at that point.
So, Rex, tell me, what do you think this year in sports will be best defined by?
Now, it won't. I think it won't be. It will be best defined by not a whole. While we did see a lot of great things happen on the field, I honestly think it's going to be defined by kind of the social and political awakening, I guess you could call it, by athletes. When we go from LeBron, Carmelo, CP3, and D Wade speaking before the ESPYs, making a call for change and how we need to do better, to Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the national anthem. It's just, we've seen this in years past with the NBA, with the I Can't Breathe shirts, but the NFL was a new level. And I think it's because what the NFL presents that stage, it pushes that more and more and more. I think we went from like the halftime show, all the talk around Beyonce's halftime show performance, but then it sprung up with the professional athletes and how much it resonated with them. So just kind of seeing that moving forward, it'll be really interesting to see how athletes will continue to use their platform from here on out, because the kneeling and the raising of the fist during the American national anthem, to just the NBA doing what players do and step up, I think that's the really big awakening. Was really interesting to see.
And just one follow-up, what do you think, or what place do you think athletes have in advocating for social issues and using a platform to bring attention to the issues as opposed to just playing on the field? How do you balance that out?
It's a really interesting balance to see. I understand that people come to their sports because they want to escape kind of a lot of the troubles in their life. Like you want to put all your burdens down and just watch a football game for 3 hours, and you want to just watch LeBron do his thing for a couple of hours when you don't have to worry about what's going on in the outside world. But I think it's a really unique platform, and to find that balance, it's here or there, because people I've spoken to, again, has been one side of the fence. It's just shut up and play. I don't want to hear it. Versus, no, they should. I personally, I don't necessarily disagree with it. I think it's a great opportunity for us to start a conversation. What I've really appreciated with some of the players is that they've actually taken it the next step, not only by raising awareness, but then with action. As far as LeBron, I think he paid for so many students' college tuition right out, and that was fantastic. And so just to see him do something like that, moving the conversation forward to a place where we can be productive, versus one side and the other side being so polarized and yelling at each other. I really appreciate the fact that it could be an opportunity to start a conversation.
And another example you can look at is what's happening in Chicago with Dwayne Wade sort of taking the lead on reducing gun violence there. And you have to applaud the effort that he went back to his hometown to sort of make a difference in that issue as well. And when you look at the issue of gun violence, I know that it's something that President Obama also wants to make one of his lasting legacies as he leaves office as well. So it's a different dynamic, and it's an interesting conversation to have as well.
Exactly. And I think stuff like that is like, it shows that the player, it becomes really, the player cares about his community, and I think it also becomes very dangerous if sports become the earmuffs to our world. We can't allow that to happen, because there's things, when you leave Chicago, when you leave United Center, you go back to that reality of the world, and then you go back to a lot of people who see that the United Center can't fix all of our problems, using the Chicago Bulls as an example. I think that's why it's so important for sports to help move the conversation and give that opportunity to talk. And you're totally right. Dwayne Wade is doing a great job out there in Chicago, and hopefully he can help make some conversations move forward as well.
As sort of a galvanizing thing, because you look at sports as sort of a way to bring everybody to galvanize them together. So
Right.
it's really an interesting dynamic. But my final question today, Rex, is what are you most looking forward to heading into the year in sports in 2017?
Looking forward to, wow, there's a whole lot. Again, I think with the social and political awareness is what I'm really looking forward to, is as far as the issues have been brought to the table. How do we move forward with that? I'm really looking forward to see like how we can work together as a community with that. As far as like pure sports wise of what I'm looking forward to, gosh, the NFL, the playoffs, I think it's so up in the air right now with so many great storylines. I'm really excited to see that. The NBA, just to see if LeBron can do it. Also,
Again, yeah.
let's see if we can do it again. Also, let's see. Oh, Chicago Cubs, the Cubbies. I mean, we have seen so many. We saw in my lifetime. I've seen the Red Sox break their curse and the Cubs break their curse. So now I'm just excited how many championships can Chicago win, because everyone is really young on that team. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Hey, Rex, we want to thank you for your time, and we appreciate your insight on the year in sports in 2016. It was a lot of fun, and we hope you enjoyed your time with us as well.
I definitely did, guys. And one last thing I did want to say, just, we also lost a lot of great people in 2016 in sports, from Ali and one of my personal heroes, Craig Sager. So, rest in peace to those guys and to everyone we lost in 2016.
Absolutely, Rex. Thanks for your time, and thanks for joining us this afternoon on the Two Man Advantage podcast.
Big fan of your work, Kevin. Keep grinding, man. Keep it up.